Hi Lumineers! Welcome to the Lighter Side Show. I'm your host, Jamie Butler, the Everyday Medium. Our guest today is Darshana Patel. She's an energy healer, a medium, and a channeler. You can find her at unscriptedway.com, same on Facebook and Twitter. But apparently she doesn't do that a lot, so maybe you don't want to go there.
That's true. Thank you for that.
Lumineers, before we start the interview, we go through all of our social media and we talk about how we get our voices out there. We're happy to have Darshana here today using the Lighter Side Show to help get her voice out there, and we hope to see more of her here. Fingers crossed. There is some big news coming, and I really can't wait to share it, but like I said, it's too early to share it, guys. But if you want to hit guesses and send me those comments, I would love to read them. All right. If you like Darshana's work, you can find her at the Center for Love and Light in January doing a public channeling. That's on January 12th. Topic unknown, but if you are local, show up. It is bound to be incredible. You also are starting to put your public channelings on Learn It Live. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
I love that. I like that format. Our housekeeping notes is that we have mediumship classes coming. It's basic, intermediate, and advanced mediumship class. Our basic class is going to be online through the Learn It Live platform. It's going to be January 13th and 20th, and then you graduate a month later into the intermediate class, which is February 24th and March 3rd, and the advanced class on March 24th weekend live in Atlanta, Georgia, where we are going to discover how to channel. That's right, get to the core of communicating to our spirits. Great. I want to get into this because it's obviously made me really, really spacey, Darshana.
No pun intended.
Oh my God! No, I didn't even mean that. You are right. No pun intended. Dude, I did some research and started going back to some memories that I liked to bury, actually, about communicating. My guide Maitland calls them interdimensional beings, and I've had a series of aha moments today. Actually, a few of us in our studio today have had a mini series of aha moments today, but it seems to be the theme. And I would love to talk more about why, Darshana, did you find this attractive? Like, you just don't wake up one day and go, you know what? I've been staring at those stars forever, and now I want to learn more about them. What happened?
Yeah. Well, it kind of was that way for me. I was a child. I think a lot of us just spend time looking up at the stars, being in awe. And I had that yearning from childhood to really connect with what was out there. There was some pull that I had to explore it, to understand it, and it almost felt like home. So for me, the research that I've done and the reading that I've done, which has ebbed and flowed over my lifetime, but as a child, I would walk to the library. I'd check out any book I could, which was a small section on aliens, ETs, UFOs, ghosts, meditation, anything in the metaphysical section.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio, in Cincinnati. So I would walk a mile to the library
one
way in the snow.
It's terrible.
Because I was so intrigued by the topic. And the more I read about it, it just felt so natural. And it was like, yes, of course, this is a real thing. So it didn't scare you? Not at all. In fact, I think the more educated I became about it, the more comfort that I got that, yes, this is a real thing and there's nothing to be afraid of.
But do you think that you found education, or do you think that you found other people's theories, stories, concepts? I mean, where do we draw the line of, are we educating ourselves or are we creating conspiracy?
That's a good question. Perhaps it's both, and I think that's why we have to do the research for ourselves, is to discover what resonates with us. What's that personal truth that feels right and says, okay, this story is believable to me because it holds the tenets of the values that I hold about the way the universe is constructed, about where humans came from and how we evolved. So it begins to help us peel back our own belief systems. And you'll find content that resonates and others that simply don't. So to me, it's a personal truth-seeking journey, and I encourage people to read it and become educated on your own.
It sounds really similar to a spiritual path, where if you're resonating with it and you align yourself with it, then it builds a truth for you.
Yeah.
But it's like I guess I myself found that I let go of my interactions with multidimensional beings from childhood up and decided to bury them because to me the world sees it as conspiracy. Mm-hmm. So where I have difficulty is when does it then become not just my truth but everybody's truth, where I don't feel like I have to go, oh, I know, well, it was probably a dream, or, dismiss it just so that I'm getting some okayness from my community because it's still so different. I mean, I've gone through being different for a long time, seeing spirit and communicating to entities, and people say, well, isn't that the same? The, multidimensional, the ETs, aren't they the same or the same vibration as spirit? And to me, it's a whole different game. I mean, is that similar to your experience?
It is similar to my experience. And I'd like to talk about that whole idea of the cultural container that we have to have this kind of conversation about ETs, extraterrestrials, UFOs.
Yes, let's start there.
Because the whole, why, it's almost a taboo topic. And a lot of people are afraid to talk about it, even if they have experiences. I mean, 53% of the American population believes that there is life somewhere in the universe. So more than half of the population believes this. So there's something there. There's, I think, an inner calling that we have to continue exploring. Why do you think we want to travel to distant parts of the universe or other planets? Because there's that yearning of discovery and exploration. However, at the same time, we have this cloud of confusion that's been designed to create misinformation and disinformation. In fact, here in the U.S., Project Magic was instituted to create confusion among the American population back in the 1940s. A lot of people have heard about the Roswell incident, Roswell, New Mexico, where allegedly there was a spacecraft that had crashed and there were beings that were retrieved. There were bodies of these beings that were retrieved.
Right.
So on the heels of that incident, thousands of people were witnesses. There were hundreds on the ground who played a role, who were sworn to secrecy, and their lives were threatened. Now they're beginning to speak out as they're on their deathbeds. But, read up on the Roswell incident.
Okay, what was the Project Magic? How's that spelled?
So on the heels of the Roswell incident in 1947, the government created this project to misinform and disinform the U.S. and the world population about this whole notion that there's extraterrestrial civilizations.
We can find that online and research it?
MAJIC, Magic.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, Project...
But it makes
I'm
sense.
sorry, that was Project Blue Book, actually, was 1947. So Research Project Blue Book. Project Magic was, on the heels of the Roswell incident, created to harvest all the intelligence that was available in the technology that these civilizations were using. So to reverse engineer the spacecraft that had fallen in 1947.
Oh, wait, so Project Magic is actually looking at, understanding what they're finding, not trying to mask it?
So that, yes.
So the blue...
Yeah. I spoke, I got the two mixed up, but Blue Book was misinformation and disinformation. Magic was reverse engineering and doing the autopsy on the bodies as well.
So do you find that ETs are similar to spirits or in the same dimensional planes? Or how do you, in your head, distinguish between one and the other?
Yeah, and that's a great question because, part of our belief system here, especially in the West, is that everything is made of matter, right? But we forget that matter is actually vibration, it's energy. So interdimensional beings can appear to us as biological entities or also non-biological entities. Mm-hmm. So they can be total astral or light bodies, which are often how they display themselves or manifest themselves to us as a light being. And on the other hand, they can also be biological entities traveling to us in person, so from in a material form, or with technology that is beyond our capacities right now. So it begins to expand our understanding of the laws of physics, the laws of gravity, the time-space continuum. Because we're in this locked paradigm of Newtonian science, we believe that everything's cause and effect versus it's all a holographic image, and space and time are actually at our disposal with thought. So many of these beings can travel with consciousness as their vehicle itself.
I come across a lot of my readings where entities show up and I can say, oh yes, that is a soul, a light body entity. They can share with me that they've had an incarnation on Earth. And I'm just going to talk like time is linear. And that they are in the beyond, or however you want to call it. Then I get entities that appear to me visually not to be human whatsoever. Some are humanoid. Some are completely different. And so then my questioning goes to, okay, well, are you living? And I get so confused. Sometimes I have to tell my client, I don't know how to describe this to you because I do feel like this entity is living, but yet the way that I'm seeing them, the only way I know how to describe it is they appear to me like a spirit does. Mm-hmm. Like I can't, touch them, but they describe to me they are still living. So would that be an example of them crossing, I don't even know how to say that, time travel or displaying their image in front of me without actually being there?
Yeah, so there's two different ways. Some beings are strictly light beings. They have no physical manifestation, no physical bodies. So they reside on, planets within the galaxy where they are just light beings, or they reside, beyond time, space, and they don't limit themselves to a particular area of the universe, if you will. They're purely light beings. Other times they can appear to us in their original form using mental telepathy. They can also use bilocation, where they can still be, wherever they originate from and appear to us.
Bilocation.
Bilocation is the same object appearing in two places at the same time. So once you recognize that thought can shape space and time, you can travel anywhere. It's basically astral travel, astral projection, which is another method that they use, as well as remote viewing. Sometimes they're just checking in on us.
Oh, I love, dude, you're clearing out my head right now, because that's how it feels. Like sometimes I'm talking to them and I'm like, if I get too into conversing with them or talking or looking at them, I feel I'm going to where they really are, and I'm not staying in my room and in the conversation that we're having.
Right.
So
and that's an interesting, yes, and that's an interesting thing with bilocation and remote viewing is once you recognize that they're connecting with you, you now have the ability to connect with them and travel to their home space.
That?
You may not.
Do I want that?
You may not.
I feel like I have enough friends. I have enough friends.
You can add to it. You can always add to it. And the whole notion of remote viewing, coming back to conspiracy, the government in 1969 all the way till, I believe, 1995 had a project called Stargate. You can look that up, not to be confused with the movie. But Stargate was a government program focused on things like psychic phenomenon, and they put a lot of investment in the technology of remote viewing. So Ingo Swann was one of the main individuals trained in remote viewing, and the government was using this both from a military perspective as well as a research perspective. So it's a thing, and billions of dollars have been invested in this technology.
Yeah, so if you can really do it, maybe not tell so many people. There have been a few that have been kind of held prisoner within their own country, like a U.S. treasure or whichever country they're in, because they don't want anybody else to capture them and use their abilities. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. It all comes back to, what you're doing on the show is raising the consciousness and awareness of all these other abilities that we innately have as humans, and it allows us to connect with all these other beings. Because to me, what draws me to this body of knowledge around ETs and UFOs is this notion of our consciousness is expanding. Can I take that tangent for a second and give a context to this conversation? Okay, so let's step back and look at why is it important to ask the question of, is there civilization outside of our own? So let's consider that, we begin to evolve as individuals. First, we're very egocentric. right? And then we move to, well, I belong to a community or a family or a nation. So we're identified by a more collective group, which is the sense of ethnocentricity, right? We have that. It comes and goes between ego and ethno, basically, where we are as a civilization.
I feel like you're traveling up
the
chakras right here.
It's exactly what we're doing. So
Yeah.
this aligns with the growth that we experience from a chakra perspective in the energy body as well. And then we move to a world-centric perspective where we begin to recognize, oh, we're all in it together. So even national boundaries begin to fall. We're not quite there yet, but national boundaries begin to fall. And we see humans as all the same. So skin color doesn't become an issue. Religion, creed, all of that falls out of, how we factor how we're different. We see that humanity is all one. And then you move to planet-centric, where you realize all of us, all beings, plants, animals, and humans, and every being in the animal kingdom are all one. So that's planet-centric. And then you're ready to move on to global consciousness, universal consciousness, called cosmocentric. So the reason many ETs haven't made themselves known is there were treaties in place where they weren't to interfere with our development and our evolution, call it the Prime Directive, from Star Wars even, or Star Trek. It's a thing in the universe. There's this notion of Prime Directive, so that we could cultivate that growth within ourselves, because we're simply not ready to acknowledge other civilizations when we are still grappling with the difference of skin color or the difference of belief systems.
I can't imagine what we would do as people if we were right now trying to integrate with other beings. Right? I feel like some of us would absolutely rise to the occasion, but the majority, like you said, it's too early. We're not understanding the unity of it all.
Right.
How does this fall in line with belief systems, with religious belief systems, with God, goddess? Does it collide? Does it mesh? And maybe it's just your personal opinion, but I would love to get some insight. Because I think a lot of people who are listening or who are out there that push away about other intelligent life is because that it indeed does not fit within their belief system that their families have had for, decades, ancestral.
Yeah, I think it's an individual definition of what's possible based on our religious viewpoints, right? Because religion gives us a context of what God is and what truth is. And so if we're searching for life on other planets, and if we do find it, that right there begins to challenge our perspective of what religion originally was intended for and what it meant and what is God. A lot of people talk about man was created in God's image. So what does God really entail? So that's another reason I think there's been a lot of hushing of evidence that there is other life, because it challenges the very viewpoints that we hold in a lot of major religions. So, but it's an individual thing. I don't think there's a one answer.
I quite enjoyed how you put that. I did. So I was going back and looking at why, when I had my experiences with other multidimensionals, ETs, that I didn't, speak out and go, oh my God, you just won't believe this is what's happened. I felt more like I was a victim, or that I needed to remain quiet, because if I were to speak up, it would be absolutely misunderstood, and it would take me to a whole nother level of, oh, she's really woo-woo, like above just the woo, and really out there. And, I'm looking through history, and I'm seeing that there are tens of thousands of reports of people who have, and masses of people who have simultaneously seen, engaged, documented the same thing, whether it was a UFO, unidentified flying object, or ETs that they have seen face to face. If this is happening, why aren't we knowing about it? Why is it being reported to the government? And why is the government or the system that is being reported to not sharing that information with us?
Yeah. And that's really the pivotal question. There are world leaders who want to come out with disclosure. I mean, that's the big movement. If you do Google disclosure. I think, the whole notion that there are other civilizations begins to challenge the very pillars of our society, from a religious standpoint, from an socioeconomic standpoint, from the power systems that are in place today, from healthcare, science, technology. Everything gets challenged the minute we acknowledge that there can be other civilizations or that they're actively engaged in our evolution. So your question is, why is there this sense of not disclosing the truth?
Yeah, the hush. I know in 2008, a lot of countries kind of gave out their reports and posted them on the internet, like France and Belgium and Mexico, Argentina, like a lot of large countries. U.S. didn't do it.
No.
USA, where we're located. And so it's kind of like a mixed message in many ways. And it makes us feel as an observer or somebody who has had an experience that there is some sense of imbalanced control or something that we need to be wary, concerned, afraid of. And I've had both kinds of interactions where they're extremely delightful, incredible. If I could, I'd bring them home to my mother and my father and be like, I'm introducing you. This is great. And I've had some where it has distraught me to no end. So I know there's both sides to everything, just like with people. And I see that our governments are playing this game. Like, what do we do? What can we do?
Well, the core question is why it's happening, and I think I'm avoiding answering it because it is a political and an economic thing, because this technology uses what they call free energy.
So you think it boils down to technology?
It boils down to technology and the disruption of the power structures that exist in the world today, because we would no longer need oil or the petrodollar. We would no longer need control in terms of populations that are enslaved in this wage war to just keep food on the table. Because if free energy were a thing, it's called zero-point technology. You can look that up. And in fact, Tesla's work was really founded in this notion that energy can be harnessed through, the vibration that's around everything.
I definitely think our hashtag for this show should be hashtag look that up. You can look that up. Hashtag look that up. It's good, though. I'm going to go look it up. Those weren't things that, I came across when I was looking at, kind of why do I feel like I need to be quiet about this topic? Or why do I feel like I'm too far outside my box that I'm already outside of when I'm talking to Darshana about this topic? But yet when I'm talking to you, it doesn't feel like talking about anything abnormal.
Right.
It seems very normal and okay. So it just kind of gets to me.
It does. Yeah, when you start to recognize, as you were saying, that other countries are coming forward, like the former Canadian defense minister wanted to bring out disclosure.
Hashtag look that up.
Totally. You'll find that as well. Former President Jimmy Carter has actually witnessed a UFO and wanted to bring out this information as well. 3,500 military pilots and commercial pilots, these are well-trained individuals who know how to spot another plane or a satellite overhead. These well-trained individuals have been documented coming out with their stories as well, and all of that does get swept under the rug because that ball of knowledge has grown so big that if we were to come clean, if the government, especially the U.S., were to come clean, we would have so much past that they would have to explain why it was not disclosed earlier.
That's phenomenal to even think about. I have to admit, I've never thought to link the whole keeping the communication with aliens hush-hush because of free technology, because of free energy, because of releasing us on Earth from oil and gas and, work wages and so forth. Like, to me, that was are you kidding? Like, that could go hand in hand.
Correct. It would reshape our civilization. It would make what matters more about self-actualization and consciousness versus simply getting our basic needs met.
Oh my God, you might find me on my roof later on with a flashlight. SOSing. You'd come down and help us with the free energy. 0 point, what is it?
0 point technology.
There you go, 0 point technology. I will learn that on a, yes.
You know, it's such
sad
a
thing is I would
topic.
get up on my roof with a flashlight.
Some of us do that every now and then.
Oh, confessions?
Yeah. We just sit out there and, you know, that's the other thing is the skies are busier than we think they are. The ones that are manifesting in these vehicles. And keep in mind, some civilizations have evolved so far that the vehicle that they're in is one and the same with their consciousness. They know how to materialize and dematerialize because they understand the power of thought. So it really comes back with these psychic abilities that we have. They can materialize, dematerialize, and you're watching these things in the sky, and if you just pay attention, you'll see things that are not satellites. They're definitely not planes.
No, they're not.
And they'll do some crazy things if you begin to open your heart to them.
All right, so I'm hearing a link here that when you're building your psychic ability, getting more connected to the power of thought, energy, emotion, that's going to be a way that we will be able to communicate to extraterrestrials.
Absolutely. And you'll see the work of Dr. Stephen Greer, Greer. He has been leading this disclosure effort. In fact, he's the one that gives the briefing to every world leader because, you know, the CIA is actually not in charge of a lot of these investigations. There's a whole other complex that leads the investigations, that drives disclosure. And so he has gathered basically the book of evidence and testimonials from military officials, from, you know, governments around the world. And Dr. Stephen Greer's work has been instrumental in helping world leaders really understand the depth of encounters and what it means. So, yeah, his work for me is really pivotal in bringing some reason and logic to the topic and taking the emotion out. And he's using, he has a training course that he does to help people connect with the non-local mind. You know, we have the local brain, which is a transmitter and receiver, to help us connect with the non-local mind. So it's outside of the ego. And that's what we're doing, you know, when we're channeling and mediumship. So he trains people to connect with ET civilizations through meditation.
Where's he located?
I think he's based out of Asheville, North Carolina.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Road trip. Get your bag, honey.
I would love to meet him.
Can we get him to come here?
That would be awesome.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, but he's got some great books and a lot of information. He's got a documentary called Sirius Disclosure. It's Sirius like the star, SIRIUS. Mm-hmm. So that's worth checking out as well.
I think something else to bring up when we're discussing ETs, UFOs, some people are already shutting down going, wait, so where are they living? You know, where are they coming from? And science already, decades and decades ago, have come across that there's more than like 500 systems out there that are just so similar to ours and that have Earth-like planets, so that just entities like us, they would have to be like us, could exist. They're not even considering all the other variations of how life can manifest. And so for us to even get across the hump that there is other intelligence out there, I think we could start with the basic science that we definitely, to think that we are alone in this world is a bit, I think you use the word egocentric. I mean, here we are. Maybe, is it plant-centric?
That would probably be ego and ethnocentric, because we're seeing us as a collective civilization.
As we're the only ones who can
Exactly.
exist.
So there's 1 trillion galaxies in the known universe. Okay, 1 trillion. And of that, in the Milky Way itself, there's 50 billion planets. 50 billion! I mean, come on. And then of that, there's 500 million in what they call the habitable zone. And that's based on our description of what you need to sustain life, which, as we know, with a light body, you really don't even need the basic building blocks of what we consider life. So the chances are very grand that there's more than just us.
There's way more than just us. I like New Paradigm Films. They have a documentary out. Oh, it came out years ago, actually, the day before Disclosure, where they discuss kind of the basics. They tell you, guess what, so much more of us are out there because there's other planets that can inhabit life. And then they move from there, from what has been disclosed, what hasn't, and kind of walks us through. And then they also talk about how they've communicated to us on Earth outside of what government have been tracking, like in crop circles. I love those. To me, they are beautiful pieces of art. So my big thing, what's the verbiage? What do we use? How do we identify them? There's so many people saying aliens, UFOs, ETs. Maitland calls them multidimensional beings. Yeah. I know that you've engaged with a lot of multidimensional beings. I mean, what do we call them, Darshana?
I think the more politically correct name would be extraterrestrial. Alien is just a foreigner of some sort, right? And so we're all aliens in some sense anywhere we go. We're a foreigner, in the culture. If we go to another country, you're basically an alien. I mean, look at the word illegal alien. So there's a connotation that comes with alien of the measurement of how we're different. So I think extraterrestrial just gives this notion that we're not from the Earth.
But you're also a multidimensional being, too.
So I love the idea of interdimensional, multidimensional being, or, interstellar being. There's so many different ways to look at it other than looking at how we're different.
But in short, we can say E.T.
Absolutely.
Because that just brings up the movie for me.
I kind of like multidimensional
that movie when it came out.
Yeah. That was an eye-opener as a child, because we're actually the same age.
Yes, we are.
It came out at the same time. Yeah. That was neat.
Aw, did you see her energy just shift? It got really sweet and everything.
That movie really let me know that, okay, I'm not weird, because maybe this is possible. This inner knowing, this inner yearning to reconnect.
Were you already looking at the stars at that age?
Yeah, absolutely.
What were you, 8?
Probably when that movie came out. Yeah.
That's cool. I was never looking at the stars. Oh. I was looking under my bed. What is under my bed? What are the lights in my room doing? I never had a calling to look up.
Wow.
I was too busy of looking like what was 1 foot off the ground around me, too engaged in all of that.
Wow. I think for me, the two phenomenon of, space and then spirit was kind of one and the same. I think I had a lot of visitations early on, and then at one point I kind of shut it down.
Right, there are a lot of overlaps.
Yeah.
What are some resources that you go to? I mean, are there some places online that can give us, like, #look it up? Other places to go where we can find what I'm going to call, Lumineers, a normal conversation about something that is still extremely outside the box?
Yeah, so I would, be careful when you are looking out there, because the disinformation is still being widely spread. So I like the work of Dr. Stephen Greer. Corey Goode is another one who has been involved in government programs in the past. In fact, I think he's time traveled, and he's returned to give us information. So Corey Goode, Goode, is another one. David Wilcock is another great prolific writer in the area of interdimensional
Don't they have a podcast show on Gaia?
On Gaia, correct.
Gaia.com, GAIA.
Yeah.
.com. What's it called? Do you know what it's called?
Divine Cosmos is the name of his show on Gaia.
Cosmic Disclosure.
Is that the Corey Goode?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cosmic Disclosure.
Yeah, he hit my radar probably in the last year and a half. So,
when you're doing this research and you're looking for other like-minded people, what are you, Darshana, looking for?
Probably validation.
From your experiences?
From my experiences, my observations, and just that sense of, this is a truth for me. So when I see other people sharing their stories and it'll match, or it'll expand my perspective, or give me an understanding of why I've already come in with a set of beliefs about this phenomenon. So validation is probably the biggest thing, and the informal community that gets built from it as well.
Do you mind if I ask, on behalf of myself and the Lumineers, what experience have you had with this?
So as a child, I would definitely feel and see beings.
Could those be spirits, or were you able to distinguish that they weren't human?
They were definitely not human. So to your earlier point, sometimes they don't look anything like us.
Yeah, nothing like us.
Nothing like us. So having those experiences, and then in my energy practice, I know sometimes we share notes on things that we experience.
We work down the hall from each other. So sometimes we're footing it down the hall going, hey, Darshana, have you ever seen anything like this? And I'm describing it, and she's like, yes, Jamie, it's okay.
Or Jamie, how have you handled the extraction of ETs out of, yeah, so sometimes we do get cases where ETs are interfering with our development or our evolution. So they will tamper with, the chakras or the chakras in the body. It's been an interesting thing in the last maybe year that I've seen.
So you've communicated with them, psychically engaged in conversation with them.
All the time.
And I also know that you're also receiving and channeling some of that cosmic energy.
Yeah. In my healing sessions as well, often there are very tall beings of light that people will describe seeing. So I know they're in the room, and I'll typically not say anything, but some people who are more empathic or sensitive will see these beings in the room as we're working. So they've kind of joined my team. I use them for support, and they give me all sorts of guidance and wisdom on the energy body, on expanding the energy framework in our blueprint to embody our full consciousness and our capabilities.
I have a story. That's why I'm smiling. Because you said when people are, sensitive and this and that, and they come in, they have these experiences. Well, I met a doctor that came out of Darshana's office last week, and she looked very well rested, but her eyes were this big around. And she said to me, is that normal when you're receiving healing to see yourself? She's like, I saw myself. I was above myself, and I saw myself. And this is a very grounded woman who wouldn't say that she is sensitive or whatnot. She's super intelligent, very hands-on with people, and blown away. She sees lights in your room, all these things, and she leaves with like, what do I do with this? And so gratefully she kind of hung out in the kitchen area at our office for a little while, and we kind of decompressed the situation. So you don't necessarily have to be so super sensitive and empathic or psychic to have these experiences in Darshana's presence.
Yeah, so that was a form of astral projection, astral travel. And so that's the beauty of this work, because we get to unlock these abilities that we have in a safe, contained environment.
Can I ask a favor of you, Darshana?
Yeah.
Can we play a little game?
Okay.
Okay. It's going to be, have you seen? Okay?
Okay.
And I'll go first to take the pressure off of you, and I will describe an entity that I've seen, and you could just tell me yes or no, and we'll banter back and forth. And for those of you who are experts out there in ETs, I'm sure you're going to giggle your pants off, because I don't know the names, and I don't know these things yet. I'm very open to learning, but I've seen these things. This is kind of like a small, silly confession from Jamie Butler. All right, here we go. Darshana.
Yes.
Have you seen the humanoid that's blue that has a fish-like face?
Oh my gosh, yes, I totally do. And I forget. The blue avians, I think, is what they're... Yeah, they got scaly... Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Totally. They're wise.
Up.
I love them. Yeah, they're pretty wise. Jamie.
Yeah?
Have you seen... Have you seen the reptilian-like beings? There's a few different kinds, but the ones that aren't so nice.
They stand... I've seen ones that stand upright and have a very slit, wide mouth?
Yes.
Yes.
They're not so nice.
Darshana,
Yes.
have you seen the brown one that's kind of muscular? The skin looks like leathery, very thick, almost padding. Only 3 fingers, and there's like extra little arms off the side. Oh my God.
I've not seen one face to face, but only in pictures. They're kind of crustacean-like.
Yeah.
They've got a shell.
Oh, I don't know if it has a shell.
Oh, there's one with a shell that looks just like that.
I remember seeing the head and the arms and the little half arms very clearly, and I think my comment to my client was, well, I think if I saw this in person, I would cross the street. I was like, I don't know how to react to that. Okay. All right, well, all right, okay.
Is it my turn?
Your turn.
Okay. Jamie, have you seen the jelly-like fish ones?
No.
Yeah.
I have not.
We were not like that.
No, this one might be obvious. Darshana. Have you seen the very tall white ones with the gorgeous deep blue eyes? Like the...
Absolutely. Those are the ones that hang out in my room all the time.
I just kind of like girl up to them. I'm like, what are you doing today?
The tall whites, right? Is that what
yeah.
they're... Yeah. They're pleasant and very wise, very calm. I'm trying to think. There's so many. One more?
I've got several.
One. Oh, you can keep going.
Okay, Darshana, have you seen the little green ones?
Of course I have.
They're funny.
Yeah.
And they're loving and they're cute. Right.
They
Darshana,
pop in for healing too. Yeah.
have you seen the ones that look like it's humanoid, arms, legs, upright, but they have cat features, like a more of a straight forehead down. The face is a little more forward, and there's energy or hair on them.
Not in person, only in pictures.
Oh, in pictures. I need to get on the internet more.
It's kind of scary. I don't recommend looking at the different types.
Really?
Just kidding.
Darshana, have you seen the pinkish ones that are tall and slender? They're more like light beings. And sometimes they'll wear like a dark hooded brown colored kind of a cloak to cover their light, to cover themselves.
I've seen the cloak.
So if you catch the cloak, it's kind of like, ooh, that doesn't look so good. Maybe I don't want to talk to them. But when it's taken, when it's revealed, it's like gorgeous.
Ah, I've seen the cloaks. Often when people are sitting, I see their guides around them. And I've seen cloaked beings, and I know they're very high vibration, but I did not know.
So that's time out for train. Thank you for playing with me on that.
That was cool, because I'm not the only weird one.
And if you, Lumineer, who are listening, if you're the weird one, we'd love to hear about what you're looking at. What have you interacted with? Of course, maybe I'll say one more. Darshana, have you seen the tall gray ones?
Yes.
With the black eyes?
Yes, the deep, deep black eyes. That's one of the common ones that I see. There's one with the warm energy and one other kind that's not so warm.
With the cold energy. I'm talking about the tall grays, black eyes, cold energy.
Yes.
Not the shorter grays that are a little bit more warm energy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was a difference to those. That's kind of neat to hear that from you. And I'm excited about something else that you're bringing to the table. Now that we've gotten a glance of kind of the ones that you've already seen and engaged with, but we're going to work with Ra after this.
Yeah. So Ra is known from his work with the ancient Egyptian civilization, so building of the pyramids. He was known as the sun god, also as Horus in their culture. Ra is actually a collective energy from what they call 6 densities, so consciously they've evolved past where we are, and so they take an interest in helping us nurture this notion of the law of one. So he's also one of my guides. He's around all the time.
Yes, he is. Sometimes you round the corner in our office, and there's Ra. So it's a very interesting place to work in. That's why, I swear, I think that's why people come into our space and just go, this is very neat, this is very pretty. And we're like, oh, if you knew what you were walking with and through and around. You've created such a great place for us to be in. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's mutual.
All right, Lumineers. Thank you so much for lending us your ear, stretching your minds with us as we talk real deep, hashtag look it up, to silly, have you seen it? Have you seen it? Whoo, Lord. But we give you great gratitude. Thank you so much. And remember, it's not woo-woo, it's true. Bye, Lumineers. Hang on to your seats and wait for Darshana. Well, no, it's not Darshana coming back. It's Ra coming back.
Right. Last one. Thank you.